It starts like a rumor in yellow, not pastel, not polite yellow that hums under sodium lights, a dare you can smell. John Milner's 32 Ford doesn't enter the frame so much as it charges it, idling like a held breath, while a small California town pretends midnight lasts forever. The paint is warm from the day, the chrome keeps tiny moons of every diner sign, the radio won't calm down. This is American Graffiti, but the graffiti isn't on a wall. It's on wheels, looping the same streets, signing the same names, convincing the night that youth is permanent if you keep moving. Look closely. The coupe is more than transportation, it's grammar. The chopped roof speaks in short, decisive sentences. The stance adds italics. The exhaust writes its own subtext. Every door thud sets tempo. Every rev is punctuation. Milner sits low, one arm out, part monarch, part sentinel, keeping watch over a summer that knows it's the last of its kind. Around him, neon glows as if the town is lit from memory. The camera doesn't observe the car so much as listen to it, because some truths can't be delivered with dialogue, they need to be idled into. Yet there's a bruise in the brilliance. The loop they cruise is a circle, not a map. The old America is already fading at the edges, sold one jukebox at a time. The coupe understands. It is equal parts swagger and elegy, a bright machine built for forward motion that quietly knows it's driving through a goodbye. That's why it lingers in the mind. Speed is an alibi, but meaning is what survives the credits. Maybe this is the real trick. The Deuce isn't just fast, it's faithful. It holds a version of America that believed a full tank and a clear night could postpone consequence. Hear the idle a little rough, like a voice you'll miss when it goes silent. The question isn't whether the car wins the race, it's whether a generation can outrun daylight. The coupe downshifts, the light turns green, and for a heartbeat the future waits its turn. Number 20, the Modesto Memory Engine. Every filmmaker carries a town inside them. For George Lucas, that town was Modesto, a place where summer felt like forever, and every night hummed with the static of 1,000 idling engines. The 1932 Ford wasn't chosen because it was pretty, it was chosen because it was true. Lucas wanted his movie to smell like gas and dust, to echo the sound of real teenage nights on the edge of nowhere. The Deuce Coupe became the film's time capsule, a vessel of small-town nostalgia with a restless pulse. Its lines, its stance, even its imperfect hum felt like memory itself, mechanical and fleeting. The car didn't just drive through Modesto, it carried Modesto's ache, the kind of longing that grows louder when you know you're about to leave home behind. Number 19, not a prop, a co-star. On the set of American Graffiti, nobody treated the Ford like a background object. Lucas instructed his team to light it the way they would a human face. Every time the car rolled into frame, the camera slowed down as if the lens itself had respect. You can feel the difference, the pauses, the framing, the weight. When Milner's hand hits the gear shift, the sound mix treats it like a heartbeat. The crew even gave the coupe blocking marks, letting it hit its cue like an actor. That decision changed everything. It allowed the audience to read emotion in a machine. It's not Milner alone. We remember it's the duet between man and car, a kind of silent empathy forged from steel and noise. Number 18, why the 32.5 window? The Deuce Coupe wasn't just any Ford. It was the 5 window, a body style that told its own story. Its proportions were pure Americana, tight roofline, upright grille, blunt determination. On film, those shapes read like language. Lucas and cinematographer Jan Dalquin loved the geometry, the way the car's symmetry survived the chaos of neon and crowd scenes. It looked honest, sturdy, slightly defiant, and it carried a legacy in hot rod culture. The 32 Ford was already myth, the shape that teenagers had turned into freedom itself. By choosing that model, Lucas wasn't inventing a legend, he was acknowledging one. The Deuce was already a cultural tattoo. American Graffiti just made the ink visible under movie lights. Number 17, built to feel fast. Even when it wasn't, there's an irony in the coupe's myth. In truth, it was fast, but not astonishing. Yet on screen, it feels limitless. That illusion wasn't digital magic, it was mechanical choreography. The crew dropped in a 327 cubic inch Chevy V8, but the real speed came from rhythm, how the cuts hit on every gear change, how the exhaust note swelled just a second longer than physics allowed. The camera framed the car low and close, giving every movement the gravity of a launch. The illusion was emotional, not numerical. You never check the speedometer, you feel the heartbeat. That's why American Graffiti didn't just inspire car lovers, it taught filmmakers that motion itself could tell a story. Number 16, the yellow that hums. Most movie cars hide in shadow. This one glowed. The yellow wasn't arbitrary, it was calculated rebellion. Lucas wanted a color that would survive the grain of night stock, that would look alive under dim sodium lamps. The chosen shade was canary yellow, layered to vibrate on film. Under neon, it became something else, half light, half myth. You could spot it from blocks away, like a siren calling the next scene into being. And psychologically, it said everything about Milner. Bold, unafraid, slightly tragic. When people remember American Graffiti, they don't recall dialogue first, they recall the yellow. It's the sound of youth turned visible, a color that refuses to fade even when the night finally does. Number 15, Chop Job Poetry. They didn't just rebuild Milner's Ford, they rewrote its attitude. Hot rod builder Richard Ruth took a torch to the roofline, slicing 3 inches from its height. That single decision changed everything. The car went from polite nostalgia to sharp defiance. The lowered roof made Milner look encased in speed, like the world was pressing down on him, daring him to fight back. On camera, the chop gave the coupe a restless geometry, its windows tighter, its silhouette meaner, its presence suddenly cinematic. Ruth's cut was surgical but emotional. He carved away comfort to expose intent. What emerged was a car that looked permanently mid-motion even when standing still. In the language of American Graffiti, that was poetry written in metal. Number 14, the small block illusion. When people talk about Milner's Ford, they remember the roar first. But the secret is that the sound was an illusion built in layers. Beneath the hood sat a modest 327 cubic inch small block Chevy, fast yes, but not the monster fans imagined. The audio team recorded multiple takes of the engine at different revs and mixed them like instruments, adding reverb from alley walls and the metallic echo of nearby signs. The goal wasn't realism, it was emotion. That growl had to sound like confidence covering fear, and it worked. The coupe sounded too powerful for its size, like a teenager's bravado amplified through chrome. The audience never saw horsepower, they heard it and believed. Number 13, night shoot to compromises. Shooting at night in Petaluma wasn't romantic, it was war. The summer air was thick, the streets too dark, and the lights unpredictable. Crew members sprayed the pavement with water to make reflections pop, but that also turned corners slick. The Deuce's tires sometimes lost grip, and every burnout became a gamble. But those risks paid off. The reflections turned each scene into a painting. You can see neon rippling off wet asphalt, the yellow body gliding like a comet through a humid dream. Even when the lighting wasn't perfect, the imperfections made the film breathe. American Graffiti wasn't about precision, it was about the way memory distorts, glows, and slips away. Number 12, the continuity shuffle. The Deuce didn't always look the same. Between takes, the car's minor scrapes, decals, and windshield dirt changed. Fans notice later the grill smudge moves, the polished levels shift, a sticker appears and disappears. But instead of breaking immersion, those errors add to the charm. The film unfolds like a summer night remembered imperfectly, details blur, emotion stays. The mismatched continuity gives the car a lived-in texture. In a strange way, those mistakes made the car feel more human, as if it aged from one streetlight to the next. Sometimes truth hides better inside the flaws. Number 11, the rival that made it shine. Every hero needs a mirror, and Milner's came in the form of the black 55 Chevy driven by Bob Falfa, played by a pre-Star Wars Harrison Ford. On paper, the Chevy should have dominated. It was louder, newer, more aggressive. But next to the yellow coupe, it became the shadow that defined the light. Lucas designed every drag scene like a duel of philosophies, old versus new modest craft versus raw horsepower. The yellow Ford always felt like the underdog, but that vulnerability made it iconic. When Falfa's Chevy burns, it's not just a crash, it's the passing of an era. The Deuce survives not by speed, but by meaning. It's America deciding for one last time to believe in style over statistics. Number 10, framed like a face. Cinematographer Jan Dalkin never shot the Deuce Coupe as an object. He treated it like a human face. The camera lingered on the grille as if it were a jawline on the headlights, like eyes that understood too much. When Milner's hand brushed the hood, it felt like a gesture of connection, not possession. The symmetry of the 5-window coupe let the frame read emotion, stillness, became thought reflection, became doubt. Under Lucas's direction, light slid over its curves like memory revisiting old wounds. The Deuce wasn't just shot, it was lit to confess. The result is that audiences remember it with the same tenderness they reserve for people, not things. Number 9, the radio that narrates. Listen closely, and you'll notice that the car has its own narrator, the radio. Every gear shift, every stoplight syncs to a song bleeding through the AM frequency. Lucas used real radio recordings from the early 60s with Wolfman Jack's smoky voice introducing each track. The songs don't just decorate scenes, they punctuate them. When the coupe idles, the music slows. When Milner pushes the clutch, the radio swells. It's almost as if the Deuce is driving to the beat of nostalgia itself. The soundtrack doesn't follow the story, it tells it. The radio becomes the film's subconscious whispering, what the characters are too young or too scared to say aloud. Number 8, the ghost in the shot. Even when the coupe isn't visible, it haunts the frame. Sometimes you see its yellow reflection on another car's chrome or a flash of its shadow slipping across a storefront window. Lucas used those ghost shots to make the car feel omnipresent, as if it was watching over the night. Editors intentionally left glimpses half a bumper a blur of color so the audience's brain would fill in the rest. It created a subliminal connection, the Deuce as guardian, as witness, as echo of youth refusing to disappear. In many ways, American Graffiti becomes the coupe's dream, not the characters. We're watching what it remembers. Number 7, the accident that wrote a scene. During one late-night drag sequence, the coupe's timing slipped. A clutch cable snapped mid-take and the car stalled at the line. Instead of cutting Lucas, let the moment breathe. The silent, stretched headlights flared, and Milner's frustration became real. They kept it in the final cut. That minor failure transformed the scene. It added vulnerability to a car we'd only seen as invincible. Behind every perfect frame, there's a flaw that tells the truth. The Deuce, for one fleeting second, stopped being legend and became human. That authenticity was more powerful than any horsepower figure ever could be. Number 6, the Uncredited Co-Star. Every hero hides a helper, and Milner's Ford had its own invisible savior, a mechanic named Henry Travers, a quiet consultant who kept the car running through endless night shoots. He adjusted the timing, swapped carburetors, and sometimes coasted behind the camera to push start the engine when it refused to fire. His name never made the credits, but his fingerprints are on every frame. Without him, the coupe would have been a stranded dream. His work became part of the film's invisible rhythm, the unseen effort that keeps nostalgia alive. The Deuce may have symbolized youth, but it survived because of an old man's patience. Number 5, from screen to street. When filming Wrap, the Deuce Coupe didn't retire, it began its second life. George Lucas kept it briefly before it passed through a handful of collectors who knew what they were buying. It wasn't a car, but a relic of cinematic adolescence. Over the years, it toured auto shows and small-town festivals, each stop turning into a pilgrimage. People didn't just take photos, they spoke to it, whispered about first loves and midnight races. To many, seeing Milner's Ford was like finding a piece of themselves still idling somewhere in 1973. Every fingerprint left on its yellow paint became proof that fiction can age into heritage. It was the American dream with a gas pedal, no longer just a film prop, but a moving museum of the way youth once sounded. Number 4, replicas, kits, and model dreams. Soon the coupe multiplied. Model kit companies, garage tinkerers, and die-cast manufacturers rushed to recreate it, each promising screen-accurate perfection. But that rush wasn't about commerce. It was about longing. Fans wanted to touch a memory, to own a fraction of the glow that American Graffiti had projected onto the screen. Replicas appeared at car meets, each slightly imperfect like cover versions of an old song. Some painted theirs in the same canary yellow, others aged it with deliberate scratches, chasing authenticity through imperfection. In that way, Milner's Ford became a shared language, the grammar of nostalgia translated into steel and paint. Every imitation was an act of devotion disguised as craftsmanship. Number 3. The Car Show Pilgrimage. Each summer, thousands of enthusiasts roll into Modesto for the Graffiti Car Show, tracing the exact streets Lucas filmed 50 years ago. They line the roads with Fords, Chevys, and dreams that refuse to grow old. But the real magnet is always the Deuce Coupe. When it appears, crowds fall quiet. Even the engines seem to idle softer. It's not worship, it's recognition. The car isn't just a machine anymore. It's a collective heartbeat that sinks generations. Grandparents point it out to kids, and for a fleeting second, decades collapse. The coupe reminds everyone that the same hunger to move, to shine, to mean something never leaves the bloodstream. Number 2. Priceless. Even when it has a price. Milner's Ford has been valued, appraised, insured, but never truly owned. In auctions it draws staggering figures, but collectors admit they're only temporary guardians. The car's worth isn't in its market number, it's in its endurance. Every dent carries a story, every repaint a confession. It embodies a truth. Few objects achieve that sentiment outlasts steel. For half a century, it's outdriven trends, genres, and generations, not because it's rare, but because it feels alive. You don't just look at it, you remember something about yourself. When people say it's priceless, they're not exaggerating. They're describing that impossible arithmetic between nostalgia and noise, between what we build and what we lose. Number 1, the real reason it's immortal. The truth behind Milner's 1932 Ford isn't mechanical, it's emotional. The car survives not because it was fast, but because it understood why people drive fast. Beneath its yellow skin lives the idea that movement can hold back time, that a roar in the dark can silence everything we fear about growing up. When American Graffiti ends, the Deuce doesn't fade into the credits, it escapes them. That's why it feels immortal. George Lucas made the coupe his stand-in for every American teenager who ever circled the same block pretending the town would never change. The yellow paint became memory's color code, the soundtrack became a heartbeat, and the road became denial turned ritual. That's what keeps audiences returning, not nostalgia, but recognition. We've all been Milner at least once too young to stop too proud to admit the night won't last. Half a century later, the Deuce still gleams because it carries something movies rarely capture honestly, the tension between confidence and fragility. Under its chopped roof, you can hear the echo of a culture before cynicism, when chrome meant possibility and every gear shift felt like defiance. The car's immortality comes from what it refuses to learn, that all rides end. It keeps circling the same cinematic streets, headlights slicing through memory engine, idling like a promise. Some legends fade because they're finished. This one lingers because it never truly parks. Milner's Ford remains on that midnight loop, cruising past diners and broken hearts, holding the moment between youth and loss, as if it could last forever. And maybe that's the point, it doesn't need to win the race, it just needs to keep going. When you see that yellow flash somewhere deep down, part of you believes you're still in the passenger seat. That's the trick Lucas pulled. He didn't film a car. He filmed the feeling of not wanting to say goodbye. And that feeling, bright, restless, unsatisfied, is what keeps the Deuce alive. It always comes back to the hum, that low, patient rumble of a machine that refuses to forget. Milner's 1932 Ford isn't just a piece of film history, it's the sound of youth trying to stay awake a little longer. The coupe began as a discarded body in a shop and became the heartbeat of an entire generation. It was born from Lucas's Modesto memories, cut and rebuilt by hands that understood speed as poetry and lit like a confession. Every decision from the chopped roof to the yellow that glows against the night wasn't about design, it was about emotion that wouldn't die quietly. It survived mistakes, continuity slips, and night shoots that nearly broke the crew. It shared the screen with a rival and won by meaning, not by speed. It whispered secrets through its radio-haunted scenes, even when unseen, and turned accidents into art. When the cameras stopped, it didn't vanish. It simply changed addresses from studio lot to legend. Fans rebuilt it, cloned it, carried it across decades as if keeping youth on life support. Even now, when the Deuce rolls into a car show, people still stop breathing for half a second, and you can feel the same ache Lucas bottled in 1973, hope wrapped in chrome. Maybe that's the true miracle of American Graffiti. It turned motion into memory, and memory into motion again. Every frame feels like a photograph that won't hold still, every rev like a heartbeat that refuses to fade. That yellow Ford keeps driving through our collective past because it runs on something stronger than gasoline, it runs on recognition. So here's the road stretching endlessly under the glow of streetlights that never quite go out. The Deuce downshifts, the soundtrack hums, and for a brief moment, the night belongs to you again. Because legends don't live in museums, they live in the sound between the gears.